Welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott McLean. My guest today is Suzanne MacPhail. Suzanne is the founder and executive director of Hands for Healing Equine in Topsfield, Massachusetts. As you'll see, I'm doing this episode from my home studio. Some would say my home studio is much cooler than my One Man, One Mic Foundation studio, and I would agree. But the two worlds shall never meet. Anyway, let's get right into this. Full transparency. Suzanne and I have known each other for over 45 years. Probably my best guesstimation is about 47 years, 45 to 47 years. We've known each other since we were middle teenagers. And she's from my hometown of Winthrop, Massachusetts, which is how we knew each other. We grew up together. And as life happens, we were friends, we hung out, we all went to parties together, et cetera, et cetera. But as life happens, I went one way, Suzanne went the other, and, life continued. And we reconnected probably, I want to say, about 2018, 2019, really reconnected. Would that be right, Suzanne? Although we talked a lot before that, so it's hard to say when the two worlds came back together again. But yeah, but anyway, we did, and it's amazing how when your journey starts where you are, and how when you circle back and you meet somebody you grew up with, you see the journey that they've been on, they see the journey that you've been on, and oddly enough, my journey led me to really, I think, Suzanne, for a reason, because we'll get into that later on. Suzanne was a big influence on me doing equine assisted services with Herd Foundation in Delray Beach. And we're going to get into that whole story, but it's very interesting how things work out in life, how people affect other people in ways they don't even know. And then it happens. All right, enough of me rambling on. Suzanne, so, okay, you are a licensed mental health counselor.
Yes.
How did you get into that field?
I was working at Tufts Medical Center in the 90s, the mid 90s, actually early 90s.
Tufts in Boston?
Tufts in Boston.
Okay.
I was a clinical coordinator for the heart transplant clinic. And I already had my associate's degree, and there was a nurse that worked there too. And she observed me talking to the clients. Remember Richie Slush?
I do.
Right? He was a patient there. He was a heart transplant patient.
Okay.
So she would watch me interact with the folks coming in every week. They would have to come in. They were on a waiting list for a new heart. And one day she just started, Suzanne, you should be a therapist. I said, leave me alone. And she just didn't leave me alone. And she must have gotten through to me. She would stand behind my desk and say, you really should be a therapist. So one day I just said, okay, I'll do it. I must have thought about it. And I went back to school, got my undergrad, and got my master's. Took the exam right out of school in 1996, passed the exam and did my 3,360 postgrad hours. And here I am almost 30 years later.
You always were a smart girl, Suzanne. Although there were times where both of us didn't make the right decisions, but we won't talk about those.
I didn't know how smart I was.
Well, see, neither did I. Right? Meaning me, not you.
No, I know.
Okay, so you do that and you move on with your career, right? And where do the horses come into your life?
All right. So when I was 9 years old, my parents got divorced when I was 8. So a year later, there's a camp in Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. I'm going to plug it, called Camp Fleur de Lis. And it's an all-girls camp, and it's I guess you could say it can be referred by a church. I was brought up Episcopalian in Winthrop and went to church and so on. So I went to Camp Fleur de Lis when I was 9, and went away for an entire month that summer. You know, kids say, I'm going to camp. I'm going to night camp, overnight camp. I'm going for a week. I'm going for 2 weeks. Well, I went for a month in my first year and was introduced to the horse and started taking horseback riding lessons, and went back to camp all the way up until I was 14 years old. But after 9, I went to camp for 2 months every summer and just got the bug when I think some people fall in love with horses. Now I can tell, obviously, when somebody has the bug. For example, like a kid doesn't want to do anything else for extracurricular activities except horseback riding or except hockey, something like that.
Yeah.
So I stopped going to camp when I was 14. I was going to be 15 that next year. I thought I was like too cool, you know, hitting teenager, and not going to all girls camp anymore.
Winthrop was fun in the summer.
Winter was fun in the summer. The horrible parade where all the
Everything.
worlds
Yeah.
collided from every corner of Winthrop.
Yeah.
But the bug of the horse never left. So I picked horseback riding back up in my 20s. Before I became a therapist, I went back to riding again. And then in 2009, I was peeking through some information and learned about different equine therapy models. There's what they call under saddle model, where you actually ride, and they do there's the path model. So it services folks who are on the spectrum, who have medical disabilities, veterans. So I started my work in 2009 to 10 to start getting my hours to be certified in PATH. And then I realized, as a therapist, because I had been a therapist now for about 13 years, that as a trauma specialist, I wouldn't be able to talk to somebody who's trying to figure out how to ride a horse. Then I learned about the EGALA model, Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association, and went and got certified in 2015.
And that's not easy. There's a lot of time that goes into that, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
get certified.
I had to go to, back then, EGALA's trainings were you went to part 1. I did it up in Maine, Buxton, Maine, which is right near Portland. And I went and got my first half, and then I had to go back to my second half and got certified. And like anyone that carries a license, you have to maintain 20 continuing education units every 2 years. And I've just maintained that for the last 11 years, and have been using it in my work as a therapist since 2017, and getting paid for it. But I started to do it in 2013.
So you were testing the waters to see how you could kind of work it out, right?
Right. So in 2012, I was working for what we call a community mental health center. And I was sitting in an office talking to a person that I was supervising. And she said, "You would make a great teacher."
There's that part of your life.
There's that part. And I was like, well, okay, say more about that. And she emailed this woman that at the time was the director for Cambridge College. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting down at an interview. And the next thing you know, I'm an adjunct professor for Cambridge College. And I started in 2012. So what I did from 2013, I started to bring my students to the farm when I would teach a trauma class, which was instrumental for them, because they would go to the farm for a day with me, and I'd put them in the paddock with the horses, as you know, and all their stuff would bubble up, and they'd say, "Wow, I thought that was healed. I didn't know that I felt that way about that. I forgot that happened." I actually had so many different experiences with it that at one point I had a student disclose sexual abuse for the first time in her life at a when I was teaching. But it wasn't a therapy role. It was a equine assisted learning situation where these students could go out and realize that maybe they should sit behind, on the other side and see a therapist, because often people will have this idea that they might not necessarily need therapy. So I was the one saying, you probably want to heal some stuff before you start trying to fix broken people, so to speak, or people who have trauma.
Yeah.
So there was that part too. Yeah.
So you, I can testify to that, as my audience has heard me say, I don't know how many times. I can never emphasize enough how great it really is. You know, how unique and how special it is, and effective. And effective. So you started implementing the horses into your therapy. Now, there's a difference, or is there a difference between equine assisted therapy and equine assisted learning?
Yes,
And what is the
absolutely.
difference?
So equine assisted therapy is when, like, for example, I do take insurance. So a client will come to me at their regular scheduled appointment, and they'll come to the farm, and the um, sessions take place in the paddock. Sometimes it could be in the aisle brushing a horse. It could be in the ring. It depends on what space we have, right?
Tell the audience the difference between a paddock and a ring.
Sure. So the ring is where you ride. So it could be an outdoor ring. There could be an indoor ring, meaning you can ride all year round.
Is that an
Coming from,
arena? Do they call it an arena also,
it could
or
be an arena or a ring.
or a
In
ring?
the
Okay,
horse world, I'm gonna go ride in the indoor ring.
right.
I'm gonna go ride in the outdoor ring, or I'm gonna go ride in the arena. Usually if it's an arena, it's covered,
Ah, okay. Yes, yes.
right?
All right.
Um,
The paddock.
so the sessions take place on the ground. There's no riding involved with the actual certification that I have.
This
Different
is
from
the
horse.
therapeutic side of it, right? Equine assisted
It's
therapy.
the therapy. It's the model that I'm certified in.
Yeah,
So everything takes place on the ground
groundwork.
versus able body riding, because they have that as well. Um, and then a paddock is where horses get what we call turned out, meaning if they're in their stall for the night, the next day they'll go out all day. They'll either be on grass, they might be on a dry turnout, which is dirt. So depending on where you work or live or board your horse, it depends on what they offer.
Yeah,
And horses provide a space where people can be vulnerable. When you
yeah,
People don't
absolutely.
realize, for example, when they get around a horse. I actually had one student, I taught at Merrimack for a year, which is in Massachusetts. And I had a student that said to me, I won't go to therapy, and so on and so forth. So by the time we went over to at this point, it was Boston Polo Club, which is in was in Georgetown, Mass. And we were in the indoor arena, and I had props all around the arena, and he was walking around, and he kept walking past me, and he would look side eye me, and he kept walking past me, and he couldn't stop at any of the words that I had provided for a prop. And finally he comes up to me, and I said, what's the matter? And he's like, I don't know how to deal with my vulnerability. And I hadn't even brought up the word vulnerability, really.
Yeah,
And I said, well, do the best you can. Do the best you can today, right? So everything does take place on the ground, and so horses provide a safe space. Horses can hear your heartbeat from 4 feet away. Horses can match an emotion to a facial expression. Horses remember your face for forever. They know when you're kind. They will actually seek you out when you're kind. Have you ever approached a horse and you can hear them go like nickering a little bit?
yeah.
They're doing that. They're saying, I remember you. I know who you are. That's
Mm,
their way of saying that. Yeah.
okay. Equine assisted learning is.
So equine assisted learning is when you can bring a group of folks together and there's no therapy involved.
Hmm,
It's more to learn maybe a skill of sorts,
okay.
or yeah.
Yeah. There's observation that goes along with that and the whole thing. Okay. So dealing with trauma.
Mm,
Now I know that you have a pretty traumatic story, right?
Yeah, I do.
So I'm not gonna. If you would like to tell that, to the
Yeah,
audience, that would be.
sure,
Um, I think it's
sure.
relevant because
Absolutely.
you mentioned that you have to fix yourself before you can fix other people. So,
Yeah.
I didn't. I probably should have let you know that I was going to ask you this question, but
Okay.
the opportunity. So, if you don't mind, would you like
No,
to?
not at all.
All
Not at
right.
all. So in 1999, I was working in Haverhill as a therapist for a residential program. I'll just back up a little bit.
Yeah.
When I was in graduate school, I met a gentleman who was a year behind me in his master's degree. And a funny part of it was we were actually in a class together at one point, and I thought he was the biggest buffoon. I remember, and usually it could be a tell. If you think somebody's a buffoon, either you really like them and you don't know it yet, or you just think they're a buffoon. But I didn't know it yet because I was looking at him from across my seat. It was one of these big classrooms. We were taking psychopathology, which is about diagnostics, right?
Yeah.
So I just was looking at him like, wow, this guy thinks he's like, the cream of the crop. Look at him, right?
Yeah.
And at one point, I was in an elevator at school. And only would happen to me. I'm stuck in an elevator with only him and I. And I'm like, oh, it's him. It could be like a sitcom, right? It's him. So anyway, I graduated in 1996 and went off, and I think I was in my third job. This is so fascinating to me. I was in my third job out of grad school when I was working in Haverhill at the residential program. And in Massachusetts, we have a thing called the Department of Mental Health, where folks who qualify for services for a mental health condition, they have a caseworker. So I was walking through the program. It was like an old farmhouse, and there was somebody here for a kid. And lo and behold, it's Joe. And he's sitting there waiting to get one of his kids that was on his caseload. And usually, kids who are at the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Children and Families, they get a referral to this program where they actually live to deal with some behavioral issues, mental health issues. So there he was, and I was like, my heart stopped, and I was like, there he is. So long story short, through this working situation, we started dating. And we were dating for a few months, and he knew that I was riding at Revere Saugus Riding Academy back in the day on Route 1.
Route 1. Yep.
And at one point he calls me up and he's like, Suzanne, I leased a horse. And I said, what? He's like, I leased a horse. And I said, oh. And so it was a horse by the name of Dolly. And there was a woman in his office. He was in an office out of the Haverhill Department of Mental Health back at the time. And her name was Donna. So she had a horse. So she leased him out to Joe. Joe put the horse at a farm that was right behind the residential program in Haverhill. And he would ride with his friend John. John was an experienced rider. And I would say, Joe, you really should take some lessons, maybe wear a helmet. And he would like ride the horse up to the program. And I have to give him props. He was a natural. He loved animals. So anyway, unfortunately, by August of 1999, he was out on the trails with his friend John riding in August. He didn't understand this is important to say, although he was a natural rider, he didn't understand the psychology of horses. He didn't understand the fight or flight of horses. He didn't
Yeah.
understand horses are herd animals. So all those things that are so important to us as humans when we're riding them for survival. He was out riding, and John said to Joe, they had this like track at this particular farm, this old track, and they were coming out of the woods. And John said, I'm going to go back to the barn. And Joe said to John, well, I'm going to go loop around one more time, not understanding the herd animal component to it. And I think he was at a canter. If not, he must have been at a canter. I don't think he was at a gallop, because I know the property, and I don't think it could have happened because of how fast horses are, 40 miles an hour. So John was heading back to the farm, and Dolly said, well, I'm going with my herd. I'm going with that horse. So Joe was thrown off the horse and hit his head and was instantly brain dead. And that was a Friday. That was August 6th. And I went up to the hospital on August 6th. My mom was an RN, and I said, will you come with me? Because I didn't know at the time. So I got to the hospital and I went into his room. And I don't think I ever knew that a human head could swell to the size that his head was. It was just the traumatic part of it for me was seeing him like that. I mean, his mother was consoling me, and I was talking to his friend John, and they said, we'll call you tomorrow because if he doesn't make it, he was a donor for his organs. So the next day he called me right at the same time, and he did, in fact, he passed away. But I think it's important to say the morning of August 6th, I was asleep, and Joe would always call me at the same time every morning, and I overslept, but I was in a dream where I'm in the dream, and he knew everybody in the dream, and I didn't know everybody in the dream. And he taps me on the shoulder in the dream, and I turned around and I looked at him, and he goes, I'll miss you. And I woke up. It was at 8:45. I overslept. I had to get to Haverhill. I was supposed to be at a meeting. I'm getting ready. I'm rushing around. I'm like, Joe didn't call me, blah. And I'm at I go to work. But the point of it is, he fell at 9:15. I ended up talking to the police officers. He hit his head at 9:15. Yeah. So it was, needless to say, it was probably the most traumatic thing that I can say as a person I've been through. And we were gonna, we had been talking. I was gonna move up to Methuen. He was living in Methuen. We had talked about creating a therapy program in Maine. And it's funny that we're talking about this right now. And I will say that I've been to therapy. I went through EMDR for this.
EMDR is
eye movement rapid desensitization. And basically it was a woman by the last name of Shapiro who was walking one day out, and she was noticing that when her eyes went back and forth, it was helping her through, I don't know exactly what the story is, but she founded EMDR. And so it's people go to EMDR all the time. It's really successful. People, essentially what you're doing is they're walking you through your story, and the person that's providing the service will say, I want you to walk picture yours. They'll walk you through your story like you're watching a movie. So you're retelling your story. Right?
Or you're reliving your story.
You're reliving your story. So yeah.
You did that.
I did that, and I've had therapy over the years. So
how did the horses help you?
Personally?
I mean, so there's a side of it that you are the teacher, you're the equine specialist, you're the equine, professional, but then there's this. Is there a separation at that point where now you're approaching the horse as a patient, like I need your help type thing? Was that ever something?
I would love to be the patient on the other end. I haven't had that opportunity yet. With that being said,
so I mean, when you were working with the horses, right? You were around horses.
Oh yes,
right.
I was riding. So as a rider, right after Joe passed away, I was at Revere Saugus Riding Academy, and there was a horse by the name of Midnight, I think. And I actually looked at her. I was gonna maybe buy her, but she didn't vet out. And I was in the arena. We'll call it an arena because it was covered. And I was cantering her, which is it's like us jogging, right?
Yeah.
and I was cantering her and I was going around and around. And I remember feeling like Joe was on the horse right behind me.
Yeah.
And the owner came out at one point, Susie, stop. So yeah, I mean, as far
Okay.
as has the horses helped me, unbelievably, I can share that when I bought Rudy, this is the subconscious because I'm studying the subconscious right
Right.
now. I ended up there was a picture in Joe's house of a horse that was on his living room wall. And don't you know, Rudy could have been that horse in that picture. And
Wow.
I wasn't even aware of it when I bought him.
Yeah.
I actually had a retainer on a mare that had just given birth. She was 4 years old. She was an Oldenburg mare. And the person that was selling her to me said, I can't sell her. I'll give you her money back. So I had to start over again. And I just found Rudy by chance. But Rudy looked exactly like the horse in Joe's picture in his living room.
Wow.
So Rudy was what we call your first horse, your heart horse.
Yeah.
And he got me through. I had him for 22 years
Yeah.
until he went to
I
heaven
was
at
going to bring up Rudy
27.
because I know he helped you. Just
So much.
personal one-on-one, off the job type
Yeah.
of, there was a huge connection. So fast forward, you're doing all this great work, and you get a phone call from me. We had been talking for a while. We reconnected, and we were talking, and you told you my issues, right? My problems, just friend to friend. And you said to me, Scott, you need to try equine therapy. And I was like, nah, nah, okay. I believe
That's good for you.
Yeah, I believe you said, yeah, exactly.
Well, that's good for you horse people.
Yeah, I believe you probably mentioned it to me a dozen times until you get the call from me that my psychologist, my VA psychologist, had recommended, oddly enough, out of every type of therapy she could have recommended, she says equine therapy. I'm like, God damn, like this thing it's like all around me. So I called you, do it. So I did it, and it changed my life. And you see the trajectory that my life went in after that, and
Yes.
where it's the path that it's on now. It was all because of that. You were a catalyst to that whole thing. So in front of everybody, I want to say thank you. I love you. Thank you.
I love you
We'll
too.
never
I could get
forget that.
emotional on that one.
So then the talk, I start the One Man, One Mic Foundation. And, of course we talk, and, it's a good thing I got a pretty cool freaking wife who has no worries of me talking to other women. Like, hey, I'm going to go call Suzanne. Like,
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? Like, it's
She's
just,
so
she's just cool
solid.
like that. She's solid. Yeah.
She's solid.
In a short form, describe the process of starting a nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
That
I don't want
you
to
can
forget
stop
the
right
fact that
there.
you used to come to don't forget, you used to come to the college classes and
Yes.
pinnacle to
You
that.
had me come in and yeah.
Yeah.
speak,
So in 2010, when I started doing my hours, I started to work with some Vietnam veterans, and it was
Okay.
under saddle. They were part of the. Are you familiar with the Haverhill Outreach Center in Haverhill, where they live?
No.
They have housing for the veterans and everything. So they would come every Monday in a van to ride, and they'd get on the horses. And I should say I'm a licensed horseback riding instructor. So I did that with them, and I just from that point on, I was like, I really want to do something for veterans at some point. And then of course, you being in my class and you doing what you did touches my heart pretty deeply. And then you get involved with the Herd Foundation and see all the awesome work that you're doing with the veterans and what the Herd Foundation does. It just sort of reminded me of the great work. And so anybody that knows horses and understands that you don't get a day off. Last winter of 2020, 2025, last winter, I was doing my work at the farm and I was saying to myself, nobody's coming to save you in 20-degree weather, right?
Yeah.
I need a team, right? And I said, "Yeah, I think it is, after talking to you, Scott, and watching what everybody does at the Herd Foundation, and I said, I should probably do a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I need a team. And we sent in our paperwork. This is really, to me, it means something. We sent in our paperwork over the weekend in 2025 in July. On the 4th of July, we were approved by the federal government for a 501c3.
Which is ironic because that's the day I decided I filled out all my paperwork in,
Right,
2 years ago, 2 years, July
right,
4th. Yeah.
right.
It was the birth of the
Yeah,
nonprofit. Yeah.
right. So Hands for Healing Equine was born, and we started to build. I started to build a board. There was a couple of different bumps along the way, and
As there is.
as there is, but there's a podcast, I believe, and it says nonprofits are messy. I say people are people.
I'll say both.
And people, I've been saying this for the past year, maybe year and a half. People are my teachers.
Yeah.
Literally. I learn more from people than ever school, anything. People are my teachers. If you listen to understand, you will learn. So fast forward. Wow. What did I ask you first? I said, Scott. No, I introduced. I had you come to a meeting in Newburyport with a veterans representative.
Yeah, there was a Zoom meeting, all right, right? I
Did a
believe.
Zoom
Yeah.
meeting, and now my wheels are turning, and I'm like, nah, Scott. Scott's so busy. Scott won't do it. He's so busy. And so the first thing I asked of you was to be sort of like my mentor, if you will, as I
Yeah.
go along in this process. And uh, right, is that how it
Yeah,
works?
it is.
Yeah.
You kind of you bounced a lot of questions off me.
Yep.
I kind of
Yep.
gave you what my experience. It's all nonprofits start differently, but the journey is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's a very bumpy road, and you know, or it can be smooth, but you hit some serious bumps along the way.
Mm,
You're dealing with people, you're starting a small business,
right.
really,
Right.
but a serious one. You're being serious, and
Mm,
that's how we started this. Like you said, hey, I'm doing this, and I said I loved it. Go,
yes.
you can do this. You have everything you need to do it. And you did the paperwork, and you did all
Yes.
the legwork, and you did all the groundwork.
And thank you
And
so much. You were so instrumental back over the summer last year,
yeah,
helping me,
that's what friends are for.
right.
You know,
And then
you
I
helped
said,
me.
Scott, will you be on my board as the veterans liaison?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
And I'm an opportunist, right?
That's okay. Yeah.
So you're at your first board meeting
Yeah.
as the veterans liaison, and the meeting ends, and you call me, and you couldn't even get away from one meeting without me asking you to be the president of
And I couldn't say no to you. You knew this.
It's the greatest gift. It really is the greatest gift. If
Yeah.
any people know about nonprofits and especially this kind of nonprofit,
Yeah.
it's a unique type of nonprofit because the horses they're the stars of the show, and we can have people on the board, which is great, coming from all different walks of life, which is what you want. But it's also imperative to have people who understand that the horses need what they need, because they do such great work. And that's you, and with everything else that you bring to the table, you are what they call the whole package.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I learned everything from Rhonda and Herd Foundation, and I am glad to pass on what I learned and my experience in starting a nonprofit and the veteran's perspective from equine assisted learning, which is very important
Mm,
because you haven't walked in those shoes, right? Again, it's one of those things you need somebody that can relate,
you do.
that can explain to people that aren't veterans, that don't have PTSD, that haven't had equine assisted learning, and how effective it is, So being a spokesman is also part of the job, you
Mm,
know. So you are in Topsfield, so you are accessible
mm-hmm.
from pretty much Massachusetts is you could drive an hour and a half and you one end to the other. Pretty much, I
Right,
exaggerate a little bit, but it's not like veterans can't get to you, in Topsfield, right?
right. We're right off what they call Old Route 1,
Right.
which
Oh,
is
Jesus, yeah.
parallel to Route 95.
Which doesn't make any sense, but okay.
Yeah, right.
You know,
And we are here building our foundation. And one of the things that we're doing that Scott's going to be involved in is a pilot program for veterans. There's a farm here in Massachusetts, in North Andover, Massachusetts, called Windrush Farm, who we'll be partnering with. They've been around since 1964, which is the year I was born, which is
yeah.
another interesting thing, um, to do this program. And the program is for veterans who are going to come to this farm and work with myself and Scott and some other people, learn how to be around horses, probably learn a little bit about themselves. It's not going to be therapy, but we all learn about ourselves when we get around horses. That's what they do.
It's not therapy, but it's therapeutic.
Exactly. And they're gonna be going through 8 weeks of learning how to handle a horse,
Grounding and
the groundwork, the biology of a horse, what the horse, cleaning a horse, all the things.
yeah.
And they're doing it so they can be volunteers for their able-bodied program. And so the veterans are going to they're going to be instrumental in helping people.
I love the fact that it's a feeder kind of program.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
Major universities use small community colleges as their feeder program. Like
Right.
FSU, Florida State University. There's this small college that a lot of kids go to, and once they go to that, like this community college up in Tallahassee, it's like your ticket to FSU.
Right.
The
Right.
education you're getting the same, you're getting the credit you need, which is what this is. I love that because a lot of
Yes.
veterans, when they're done, I've seen it. They're like, what else can I do? Like, can I? And farms can only have so many people walking around and doing things and helping um and I think what this is great that
Yeah.
they have another level to go to.
Absolutely. And around here, we have Windrush Farm, we have
Yeah.
Bena Farm, we have Strongwater Farm, we have Ironstone Farm, to name a
Yeah.
few, where I believe the VA's goal is to make this a national program.
Nice.
We're honored to be the first ones hitting the ground, no pun intended, um, running for these folks who are just going to be so essential. We're really
Yeah.
excited. Yep.
Yeah. I think you know, equine assisted learning programs for veterans are in the big picture few and far between. I think there's a lot of farms that would like to do it. I think there's a lot of people that would like to do it, but doing it is a whole nother thing,
Absolutely.
and the rigor that it takes to get this done and figuring things out. And the horses are the stars of the show. They are the healers.
Hmm.
We're just humans putting them in and out, and they can do
Right.
that. They can do that on their own also.
Right. Right.
Um,
Exactly.
so the program is 8 weeks long.
It's 8 weeks long. I created a curriculum.
Yep.
I think I mentioned I'm a licensed instructor.
Yeah.
So Which hell, I mean, there's only 2 states, I think, in the country that you have to be a licensed instructor, and I think it's Massachusetts and Florida. Figure that out. But so yeah, there'll be it's a really cool curriculum where it includes, again, anywhere from cleaning out a horse's hoof, so that and bringing awareness. So it's like if you put a shoe on and there's rocks in your shoe, it doesn't feel good. So if the horse is going to go out and do something, and they can get whatever is out of there, what you call a frog underneath the horse's hoof, to
I've done
grooming
that, and that's
them.
interesting. That
Yes.
it's a very learned skill
Yes,
to
it
be able to
really
get that
is.
hoof to come up and get
Yeah,
in. It's
exactly.
the body positioning and the angle that you have to hold it at, and the
Yeah,
trust you have to have, and the
right,
horse has to trust you.
right. It's
And I
such a
mean,
give
there
and
is
take.
a lot that goes into that in itself. Is a at least, I don't know, 2 classes to get comfortable for the veteran. You know,
Yeah, and so we'll have a couple of folks. I'll have horse people involved, so
yeah.
we can have a couple of horses going at a time. And we'll do that. We put them on what we call a cross tie in an aisle, um, and I'll teach them. I'm going to follow a little bit of Windrush's lead. There's a gentleman by the name of Phil, and he wants to get involved. So
Okay.
um, to essentially being able to go over to Windrush and be what they call sidewalkers for these folks who are going every day, or folks that show up every week to have their sessions with these folks. And they have the path model includes an instructor that leads the horse and the sidewalkers. And like I said, they've been around for 62 years. So
Yeah.
we're feeling pretty
So
hopeful.
let's talk about the stars of the show.
Okay.
Give us their names.
So we have Mama.
Uh-huh.
Mama is a 12-year-old retired standard bred. She used to race carts
Ah,
here in Massachusetts. Um, we have Sophie, who's a retired polo pony. I don't know her exact age, because when I was over at the Boston Polo Club, some folks saw what I was doing, and they came over and said, "We're going to retire Sophie, and we really would love her to have a great home. Would you take her?" And so I
hmm.
took her. I've had her now. I think it's going to be 3 years this summer.
Yeah, it's about 3 years since you were there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And we have Pope, short for his name is Poe, short for Pope. Poe was born on Easter Sunday, 2020. He's a 6-year-old donkey.
There you go.
He just had his he just had his 6th birthday, and this donkey's personality is like no other. There's a lot of people at the barn who say, "I've met donkeys before, but nothing like this donkey."
So let's
Um,
talk about that for a second. So the to the average person, right? Donkeys, horses,
mm,
different,
different,
right?
totally
Different.
different.
So what are some of the differences? As far as working with them and dealing with them and
Mm.
understanding them.
Absolutely. So donkeys are one of the smartest animals in the world.
Yeah.
And people, I think that's probably why they get a bad rap.
So all those
Donkeys,
people that call me a donkey in the past, thank you. Thank
right,
you.
right. So donkeys have decision-making abilities. Hence
Critical
why they're
thinking.
called, yeah, hence why they decide, oh, I don't know if I want to, if they don't want to walk the 5 miles or the 5 feet to get to their paddock, they stop a lot.
Ah,
They're called stubborn. They're very emotional, extremely emotional. Like Poe is oh, looking at some deer right now. Wow. Um, so he's verbal.
yeah.
Anytime, people can walk up to him and say, "Hi, Poe," and he just starts braying. And they're also they protect the herd. So donkeys
Mm.
protect the herd. Donkeys can actually kill fox, um,
Yeah.
um,
Coyotes.
coyotes. They're very protective. I've witnessed Poe. It's interesting because he's so social, and he's such a love, because I've had him since he was 5 months old. So I see him, he's conflicted. He'll be out in the paddock with his horsey friends, or I'll talk about the other one in a minute, with his horsey friends, and somebody could walk over, or another animal like a dog could over to the paddock, and he wants to be social, but then his instincts are kicking in, and he's like, who are you? You're coming around my people. Are you safe? What are you trying to do? So I watch him. I can observe him going back and forth. So he's been essential in my practice, where I have clients where if I have a kid with ADHD, who really have problems stopping and thinking before they go to the next task, or they're trying to, go into this one, it's not finished, or they go to the next one, where I can say, well, for example, we were just grooming Poe, and Poe's waiting for us to finish. So we should probably finish grooming Poe before we go to the next thing. So instrumental with that. He loves to be groomed. Donkeys don't shed, horses shed. They come from they lived in the desert. They're used to carry things. Whereas horses
Beasts of
are
burden.
yes, yes. And there's the whole donkeys have what they have a cross on their back. So there's also a religious component to donkeys and Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
There's that.
So who's the other horse?
So, and then we have Autumn, who's a hinny. And I never knew that any such thing as a hinny. If you look up HINNY, hinny is when the father is the horse and the mother is the donkey. It's a hinny. The other way around is a mule.
Mule, yes.
So Autumn is a 13-year-old hinny, and she and Poe share paddocks together. I actually just separated them from stalls a year ago when Poe turned 5. So Poe has his own, what I joke about, Poe has his own room now where he goes to sleep in. But they join each other every day. And so those are the stars of the show. Okay. Those are the ones that I have that fall under the foundation. Nonprofit, the foundation. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So what's the website?
The website is handsforhealingequine.org. And it's a great website. Yeah.
Yes. Now, the all important conversation that I have with every nonprofit is fundraising. Dun, yes. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Now, I know for a fact that what you're doing is different because what happens with the donations, where the funding goes, is to a lot of it is to the care and feeding and grooming and medical costs for the horses, because the horses are the star of the show. So there's kind of that next level of fundraising, because that in itself is somewhat expensive, and so the fundraising aspect of it is a little different for equine assisted learning foundations, right?
Right.
So if somebody wanted to give you their money, which I highly suggest, just as the host, not as anything else. I always say this. If you're in the Massachusetts area, if you're not in the Massachusetts area, if you're anywhere and you love what you hear,
we have a donation section on the website.
There it is.
And we're also looking to raise money for our forever home for these folks, to be able to. We are at a farm in Topsfield, which we can stay and do our work at, but we are going to be raising money to find our forever home.
There you go. Yeah. And that gives a lot of stability. That's a lot of stability. So you can go to the website, and as far as fundraisers, I know there's some things in the works that can't really talk about them now because they haven't come to fruition yet, but I will be sure to push for it. I will be sure to give a shout out for it, since now I'm kind of involved in it. You get that privilege.
We do.
Yeah. I think we talked about actually doing kind of a crossover thing sometimes between One
Yeah,
Man One Mic Foundation and Hands for Healing Equine. I think that would be
absolutely.
two totally different things, and I think I see down the road that there might be a podcast for Hands for Healing Equine. I think because Suzanne does have that radio voice,
Yeah, I
as
was
they
a
say. She
DJ.
always did. Yep, always did growing up. Um, is there anything we forgot to talk about? Is there anything you want to bring up that I might have forgot?
Just to as far as fundraising for programs like the one we're about to start, which
Yeah.
we already have that, but moving forward, so we can help, serve the veterans and be
Yeah.
a space where people can come and heal and just have a great place where they can just have space to just
Yes. And I know the
um
veterans will benefit from it greatly. They always do.
yeah,
Um, you see veterans that come and they love it, and life kind of happens,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden they kind of disappear after the herd is a 16-week program, 2 8-week
Mm,
programs, um, and then they all of a sudden show up again.
yeah,
Like, hey, and you're like, oh, it's like welcome home type
right.
thing. It's such a great feeling to know that, because I helped the facilitators for a long time, and you get to know these people, these veterans, and they kind of, some of them will fall off the map, and you're like, okay, life happens, but it's
Mm,
all when they come back, and they usually always do. It could be a
they
year
do.
later, but the fact that they never forget.
Yeah.
They never forget, and they always want to go back to their horse. And you're going to find that out because every veteran that goes there is going to bond with one horse, and it's going to be their horse.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
whole thing in itself. Like
Yeah,
Fig
yes.
Newton was my horse, right?
We definitely need a mini.
Oh, the minis are great. The
We need a
minis are
mini.
great. Yes. So, all right,
We're
Suzanne.
also
Well,
on we're also on Facebook and Instagram.
yes, and Hands for Healing Equine on Facebook,
Yeah,
Hands for Healing Equine on Instagram,
yes.
and follow them. And I know you're on TikTok with
Yes,
your
I
own,
am.
and it's always horses.
Yes.
if you
I'm
want, if you want to watch something great on
I'm
TikTok,
Suze.
Suze.
Suze on TikTok.
Yeah, it's all horses. That's all she ever. God bless you for that.
Well, horses and decrees.
And degrees, yeah.
As I study the subconscious through conscious language. Yep.
Yes, it's a great TikTok channel. It's always fun to watch. It's always a nice break from the chaos of any of these social media that I contribute to. By the way, I'm sorry for that, but
Right.
the chaos. All right, my friend Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I truly appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you did for me. I love you. You know this.
I love
And
you too.
I look forward to us making a great foundation.
Me too, Scott. There's big things coming our way. I know
Big
that.
things. Big things. Big things. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm going to do my outro, then we'll talk after. So,
Okay. All right.
well, we built another bridge today, and this is another equine bridge. I love the equine bridges. It is near and dear to my heart. And I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you liked this, share it. If you didn't like it, well, thanks for watching and listening for 55 minutes and 27 seconds. I appreciate that. And yeah, so I was off for a couple weeks. I was in the Philippines, and so I'm going to be more consistent coming up in the near future, gearing up for the summer. Get some great episodes coming up, and I look forward to putting them out to you. And again, yeah, you'll see me and hear me next week.